And somebody is like, because when stuff comes out, it's like you want to watch everything, but like you don't have the time.
Don't have the time.
Yep, it was easy when it was like one movie, like every like year and a half or something. I'm like, now I gotta watch all these TV shows. I'm like, you asking a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, it's also like it's been more up and down. I think people forget Marvel sort of started out up and down.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
even
like, dude,
even before MCU, the Spider-Man and X-Men movies. I mean, some of those slap. Some of them are
yeah.
kind
Some
of
of them are kind
mid.
of mad. They're like it's like, you know, I think folks like they want everything to be, you know, they want every movie to be Iron Man 1, or they want every movie to be, you know, like as good as like Thor 3 or whatever. But you got to remember, for us to get to Thor 3, we had to sit through Thor 2. Thor 1 wasn't that good. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it was good enough to establish like, okay, this is, you know, we know the first, like it's like the older Hulk movie, the one with what's his face? I was gonna say the one white dude. The old first Hulk movie. It was like,
Oh,
you know, that
Eric
one.
Bana, the
Yeah,
Ang
it's like
Lee.
that one wasn't that good, but we were like, okay, yeah, like y'all set it up, so now we could pop off in the second movie, and that's kind of how Thor was. But like, yeah, you know, when Thor 2 came out, we were like, okay, y'all set it up, but like,
This is
what you
aggressively bad.
what you doing? Like, you do y'all know how to tell a story? Y'all ever played D&D? You ever read a fantasy book?
But you know what? I think the problem is, I think it's the Phase Two stretch because it's the
Oh yeah,
Avengers onward until it's the Avengers until uh, Endgame, where you really don't have you got Dark World, and some would argue Iron Man Free, but I think Iron Man Free just got a bad rap. I think Iron Man Free is actually good. It's just the
I can't
Mandarin stuff
remember.
maybe could have been handled better.
Yeah, yeah, I can't remember. To be fair, I don't remember Iron Man 3 that well. Iron Man 2 is definitely like extra medium. Whereas like if you point to a random
Yeah,
fan like, yo, tell me what happened in Iron Man 2, they were like, Whiplash, um,
got
did
underused.
did some stuff. And it's like Iron Man 2 is not that good, or not very memorable. Well, it's not that good. Iron Man 3 is not very memorable. Thor 2 is just like, who cares? It's just bad. I'm trying to think what else happened. I'm like, uh, what else came out between then? I mean, like Winter Soldier was solid. Winter Soldier was
Yeah,
solid.
Winter Soldier, and that probably also ruined expectations because like you have
Hmm.
Guardians, you have Winter, and those are both the
Yeah,
same
Guardians
team.
won.
Yeah, you get the first Guardian. Like I think it just there's a stretch run where you're like, it's kind of like the hot streak fallacy.
Hmm.
Like you assume because you've made a bunch of baskets, oh, you're gonna make the next basket, and it's like
Yeah.
that's not really how that works. It doesn't work that way in
Hmm.
sports, and also no matter how good you are at making movies, and
Company.
hold on,
Who out here ringing doorbells?
somebody ringing doorbell. I'm like, what's going on? Well, that was nice of them. Sorry. I like my mail person. They like to make sure that our stuff gets into our hands if we're here. So
Yeah,
they,
that's cool. That's cool.
Taryn
Um,
says, ringing doorbells in this economy.
right.
Um, what were we talking?
Yeah, Doug was saying Ant Man was phase two. Yeah, Ant Man is like an interesting like point, because like he's like a like, and they kind of acknowledge this in the context of the movies, is like people don't really care about Ant Man. So they're like, Ant-Man 3 underperformed. I'm like, how?
Why
Like,
are
you
you
made the
surprised?
movie and we saw it. Like, that's what you should expect. Like, that's pretty much it. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, the underperforming was you expecting that Quantum Mania was going to be the one that like exploded this thing off.
Yeah,
That's
no. Quantum Mania is like very clearly a stepping stone. Like for folks who read the comic books, like we know how how many infinite problems Kang creates. And I did appreciate the extra credit scene, or what was that extra credit scene? No, that was at the end. That was the end of the film. Really, the regular end of the film.
yeah.
He was like, "Did I mess up?" Nah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, Paul Rudd is indeed a treasure. It's very, very, very good. Let's like, but like Ant-Man as like the comic character within everybody else, there it's like, kind of, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Doug, is someone in this chat? I mean, we can watch both. Yeah, Taryn's in the Twitch
Yeah,
chat.
we're looking at like the global chat, so it
Yeah,
pulls
we
in
can
from.
see across Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Taryn says, I think I'm an outlier in that other than the Hulk movies, I can't pick an MCU movie I didn't enjoy and willing to rewatch.
Didn't enjoy.
I don't
Okay,
want to
yeah,
rewatch
that's fair.
Dark World.
Oh yeah, I gave Dark World a second chance, and honestly, the only reason I watch it is so I can complain about how bad the story is and like how bad some of the pacing is. Like the thing that tilts me off the face of the earth is like when Thor's mom passes away. Like the very next scene is like pantsless doctor scene where it's like, oh well, parents like the doctor from the first movie who like helped Thor or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, he's like downtown in his underwear or whatever, and I'm like, what is this film? What do you want me? How do you want me to feel right now? Like what's the emotional flow of this?
Yeah, that's when the jokes of Marvel. God, I want to write something on this so bad. I gotta think of, I gotta like pace it through.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one thing about Ant-Man. I know we didn't mean to get started on this. It's just
Yeah,
we were
we were just
riffing
talking.
before the show started, and it's like okay. Is I'm curious because I know no one wants to talk about Josh Whedon given everything that's happened. So I think it's probably the other reason why I've been like put away for a bit. But I think it is important to bring up his comedic style is still pretty like every writer in the Marvel rooms may not want to admit it. I'm like, y'all are still riffing off Avengers. Y'all are still trying to pull the wit from Avengers. And they'll try to say like, no, we got ours. No. It's clear in the setups of a lot of these movies that's they found
that's the secret sauce. Yeah.
Now some of them have broken out of that. I'd say like Captain Marvel feels different. Black Panther feels different. Shang-Chi, I think, actually, really to its credit, feels different in certain ways. Although there's some elements that maybe fall back into that. Ant-Man, I'm really curious if Edgar Wright had gotten to finish that movie the way he wanted to, would it have felt different? Because when Louise is doing the monologue of like, hey man, and this man was doing this, and he told me to tell you about like, total Edgar Wright gag. I still haven't got this confirmed, but I will beat this table down until I'm like, I know that was a leftover part from Edgar Wright. It feels like a Shaun of the Dead, a at World's End gag that got left in there. And you're like, this is good. We're gonna leave this in here. And I'm like, oh, if he had gotten to keep that, so that was very different. And I'm kind of curious is like, is our generation finally getting tired of it? And maybe the younger folks that are getting into Marvel now or don't mind it because it's still sort of fresh for them, at least that kind of humor. That's what I'm saying. I have to think about it more. I know some people probably in the comments when they rewatch this would be like, how dare you compare every single thing back to, I'm like, just look at the joke setup and structure. And aside from a few movies, which ones have really pushed outside of that? I would argue it's very few of them have. It's still been that model. I'm starting
An
to wonder if
interesting thought.
that's
I have to rewatch them with that in mind.
Ragnarok. I think Ragnarok would probably be a good example, but then it's like you also in Love and Thunder. I think the reason that's divisive for some folks is like if you really like Taika Waititi, you probably love that movie. If you're not into his brand of humor, it kind of split some people. I don't know. Yeah,
I thought it was different and good. Different and good. Yeah, I see folks in the chatter are saying it's like, where's Luis in Ant-Man? It's like, yeah. But I looking at like the plot of Ant-Man, it would have felt like shoehorned as hell to have Luis there. But they could have did an after credit scene where that would have been good, where Ant-Man is telling Luis what happened in the same fashion. That would have been a nice like inversion. That would have been neat.
They missed the opportunity.
Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been good.
And because instead we get the Scott monologues at the end, that really could have been.
And those were good. Those were good.
Yeah. And then Luis could have been like, "Oh, I'm rubbing off on you." Something like that. All right. Hey, y'all. It is Mario Day. It is March 10th. And we are back on State of the Nerd Union. That was some of our Ant-Man thoughts. I did. Actually, I guess one thing I'll say before we start the show is that I did genuinely enjoy the romp through the quantum realm. So really,
that was a lot of fun.
So really, my only issues are just a few execution things, and that the look of the movie just sometimes kind of. Yeah, we could have a longer conversation about CGI. I think everyone is saying it's bad. I'm like, I don't think that is necessarily bad. I just necessarily like the. I'm trying to figure out do it. Whatever palette. If people will say color grading, I'm like, nah, that's not exactly what I mean. It's like the look they decided for the CGI in this movie in spots just cohesively didn't look. I didn't like it. I don't think that necessarily means that the CGI like there's difference than a shot that looks like, oh, that doesn't look good versus. And my friend Kyle, also a friend of the channel, was saying that it might have been because they were using that projection tech. Like they do for the Mandalorian, and I'm like, that could be it because you tried to do a bigger scale thing, and now some of the spots didn't necessarily look as great in that sense. But I don't think there's a lot of CGI houses that are being overworked, so I think it's also fair to be like, I don't want to like. I think some people are going overboard and just crapping on them and be like,
oh, this is bad.
I'm like, yo, they're being paid. They're taking really low contracts, and Marvel keeps changing stuff last minute. And then and this stuff just so like I'm not. It may be the source of where the problem is in a sense, but I don't think it's necessarily their fault. But I don't look at this movie and be like, it's an eyesore. I just
I agree. Like I feel like I appreciate the nuance in your description because I feel like it represents like the difference between like when somebody says like, oh, like it's bad animation, and I'm like, and in reality, it's like you don't like the art style. Like the animation is fine. Like the animation would be bad if it's like Tom Goes to the Mayor is like cheaping out on the animation, but the art is different, and I appreciate the description for that.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between I don't like the art style versus I don't like the animation is a different jive. So yeah, I agree. There's some folks that March 10th still feels forced. Some folks are upset with Doug said he's upset with the Mario thumbnail for the movie because the trailer like spoils a huge surprise. I haven't seen it because I try to avoid that stuff because what's the word? Not films, but the advertisers, the marketing team has a tremendous bad habit of like blowing the story in the trailer. I think what movie was that? Shutter Island was a big one where they ruined the surprise of the film in the trailer for the film. So just avoid it altogether.
Figure out it ruins it early on for a lot of folks.
It's like just skip it. Just wait for the movie to come out, and you'll have a much better time.
I can't, unfortunately, most of the time.
Because you got to comment on stuff.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trailer, yes. I was apprehensive because of all the stars playing the other roles, but I like that they got some young voice actors to play the turtles, and it looks like 80s turtles, and I'm like, yes, yes. Looks like someone just straight pulled 80s turtles to now, and like, this isn't broken. We're just gonna update this a little
Just gonna
bit.
do it.
Maybe make some modern references. Cool. I'm down. Some of my favorite movie moments, like Arrival and Lego, were not spoiled. Yeah, I would say the Arrival trailers are probably pretty good. Lego movie, yeah, because you had no idea it was.
That they were really
Legos
went
a direction. Went a completely different direction. All right,
let's start the show for real.
Time to start the show for real. So this episode, we said it's Mario Day. So we're going to be talking about legislation that might upend TikTok. U.S. legislators have been fighting it for a bit, so it's not surprising this is happening. Also, there's delays for Suicide Squad, RoboCop, and finally, we are going to talk some deals you can get on Mario Day. So all that is coming up on the show.
Money.
For folks that don't know, Mario Day, MAR, March, the 10th of March, 1-0. If you never knew that before, here you go. Actually, but what I don't remember, did we start this as far as the internet or was this like marketing, like Nintendo?
I think it was an internet meme.
It feels like,
and I think Nintendo like later leaned into it, because I don't remember like if they had been doing it, I feel like it would have been a thing I would have remembered as like a kid who had a Nintendo Power subscription. Like that would have been a thing. But I don't remember any of that happening. So I feel like it was one of those things that like the internet was like, what a meme, and then Nintendo was like, hey, that's actually pretty neat. Don't mind if I do. A little bit of you made this? Nah, I made this.
But people are getting into it, and with the release of the new Mario trailer, if you use the code Mario Luigi, all capital letters, if you buy it on Fandango, you can get a buy one get one free ticket. For folks that realize the release date got moved up a day, so you can also watch it a day early on midnight screenings, which I haven't seen a midnight screening in a long time.
Yeah,
it's
same.
crazy. So for folks that want to take advantage of that,
I think the last midnight screening I did was probably for like maybe like Endgame or the first Avengers film or something. Because that was back when they would show every single Marvel film up to the thing. So it was like, oh yeah, we'll go and we'll watch every. It's like, you haven't seen any of the Marvel films. Like, what are you doing for like the 8 hours preceding midnight?
Yeah, it basically it's impossible now.
Oh yeah, no.
Shows you never do that.
You would die. Yeah. You would die.
You just have to take a week off from work, watch all the Marvel.
It's like, yo, what are you doing for the 3 days before Friday at midnight?
I was gonna say the other thing. I'm kind of somewhat Wario64 on Twitter. I've praised him quite a bit because of the deals he throws out. So he showed a lot of these deals. Someone said that the Mario Nintendo Switch bundle looks like a soulless corporate bundle, and I kind of have to agree. We can't really get a photo up for y'all right now, but it is just a very generic kind of red Joy-Con,
which they already have.
I know.
Like, you can already get like the fancy red like Mario thing. Like, it's been out for a long time.
So this is
so it doesn't feel special.
Exactly.
Like, y'all could have at least put like the little like Nintendo certified little gold logo thing on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and Doug brings up they've done that bundle in the past. So yeah, it's just not. Yeah, the movie ticket deal is about now there are a lot of discounts on games right now. So if you've been holding off on buying new, or if you wanted like the physical copy like of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or if you want to get a Super Mario Odyssey, some of those are undiscounted. Almost $20 to $10 off on a variety of them. Yeah, Odyssey's $20 off, so you can get it for $40 if you haven't picked that up. Let's see.
Yep, they're not bringing back that Mario trio where you could get Mario Sunshine. What was the other one? It was the Mario Universe one. I forget what that one was called, but it was like they're not doing that anymore. So if you missed that train, never unless you want to pay $100 for somebody's copy on eBay or something, that's gone. So you just gotta buy them individually.
And people, I know there's a Mario Day, but people were trying to do that with the Metroid Prime remastered release. I was furious. I'm glad Nintendo pumped out more copies. So it seems like it's killed that. But there was like a 2-day period last week or a week, where it was like, and like Wario was tweeting out and was like, "Oh my God, I think scalpers are trying to cop Metroid Prime," and we were like, we were mad, we were losing our mind. We were like, "Really, Metroid Prime? Really? We're gonna do that to a game that's been out
Come on,
20 years? Really?"
Yeah. Oh, Doug said it was Mario Galaxy was the other one I was thinking of. Yeah. But Mario Kart 8 is almost 10 years old. However, we got Mario Kart Deluxe, and that there's a whole bunch of new tracks that keep coming out that are, I think they're coming out till like maybe September, I think, and they'll basically add they'll double the number of tracks in the game. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's. I know people might want a new Mario Kart, but it's also interesting that Nintendo's finally just taking on their properties and being like,
here's more.
Yeah, it's not necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily call this milking. I mean, okay. There probably is an element of milking this. Let's be completely honest. But I think it is kind of cool that Nintendo's followed this from because this is Wii U release. Oh God.
Yep.
This is the Wii U release, and they've at least made it feel fresh enough with the new maps to keep dropping. Online community is pretty solid on that, actually. So it's pretty fun.
Speedrun community is good.
Like, why mess with it?
Yep. And if you want to keep more people playing it, then just keep adding more content to it. So it's like we already have like a perfectly serviceable Mario version out there. You don't need to make Mario Kart 9. Just like double down on Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart Double Dash.
And my challenge to you, we did not get to talk about this before the stream, but I'm going to list off my throwback of the week. I'm definitely picking a Mario game. So if you need time to be thinking, that's what I'll be.
I already know what it is. Cool.
Oh, you already know? What did you just hold on. I'm curious if we might have the same game.
Probably.
This one's pretty short.
I have three ideas in my head of what I think it's going to be, but I'm curious to what you'll say.
Ooh.
There's the hidden Mario option, which I don't think you'll pick, but you might pick. And there's like the two other big popular options, which you might pick. So we'll see.
Ooh.
There's the old head big popular, and there's like the new hotness big popular.
All right.
Drop your guesses in the comments for which three you'll think that I think that Kenny is gonna pick.
I feel like I might have said it on stream years ago.
I don't know. I'm just taking an educated guess.
Okay.
Off of vibes.
All right. We're gonna talk about it soon. This next one on our quick hits, not surprising to anyone. Twitter has broken links. If you tried to post a video, GIF, or image on Monday, you might have noticed that you kept getting loading screens or just nothing would post aside from just the letters of your tweet. An internal change over at Twitter caused the issue, which they were able to fix later in the day. And this probably would stop happening if you hadn't laid off half your staff. But that's just me. Let's just throwing that out there. There's been a number of bugs on Twitter since Elon's takeover, and it's just the latest in the string of them. So the platform hasn't died yet, but it is certainly every user I've talked to on there just kind of waiting for like, all right, when's it happening? When's it coming? When's it going to be? When are we going to get the notice in our email boxes that that's just done?
This just in: Twitter now bad.
Do you want to take
I think Twitter has enough cultural inertia, so to speak, to survive for like a long time. So unless like the internet falls over and when we pick it back up, Twitter broke. Like I think it's gonna be around for a long time.
Yeah.
At least long enough that like the old people who use Twitter who don't want to move to something else will just keep using it in perpetuity.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because there's Jack Dorsey just released Bluify. It's supposed to be the new Twitter alternative.
The new hotness.
Yeah, we'll see. People said that about Mastodon, and that has not really.
Yeah, getting people to switch to anything is if you could unlock that secret and it was like super easy, like you would be like a trillionaire because like every company would want to know. It's like, oh, how do we get people to stop using our competitors' products and start using ours? And it was like, be cool, don't be lame.
I mean, apparently, I was gonna say where this is spelled spectacularly, Google Plus. Where it may be working is the search engine we always joked about for the longest, Bing, because they've had 100 million active daily users.
No, I was gonna say 100 active users. I'm like, that's what we expect. Them's all bots.
No, I meant they had 100 million active users since they added the chat function. So when Google says they're like, this might actually be a threat, then they might be on something there.
Nah, that's just Gen Zers not knowing that Bing is bad. It's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about ChatGPT in a second though. You want to take the next one?
Yeah. Let's see. So we got a breakthrough. A new audio-only competition show is on Audible, judged by Kelly Rowland and Sarah Bareilles. I think that's how you say that. And hosted by Hamilton star Daveed Diggs. The series will follow 5 contestants as they're mentored by Rowland and Bareilles over the course of 9 episodes that debuts on Audible on June 1st. Sounds pretty sick. Audio only competition show. That sounds like that sounds niche enough to be cool, but like I'm wondering it has big like old school radio show vibes, and that might be really neat.
Yeah, the old man in me got mad for a second because I was like, an audio only show. How dare you go back to the basics
to radio days?
But I'm like kind of reading that. I was like, oh, okay, that does actually make.
I was like, okay, that sounds cool. I'm in for it.
Mm-hmm. Doug says, I want someone to break Audible's stranglehold on the audiobook market. That's fair. That's a
pick a book that you want to read. I'll read it to you. Give me like $80. $50 a chapter. You got it.
$50 a chapter. Hey, you know on this next one? Hey, you can't steal a password if you never have one.
True.
Think about it. This is bad though. I'm glad this was
hilarious.
I'm glad it wasn't classified information. On a government cloud server hosted by Microsoft Azure, our U.S. government and a DoD department was connected to the internet, and it had sensitive information, not classified information, but just sensitive, like social security number kind of, information like that, or an SF-86, which is kind of like that's kind of like your personnel history if you're in the military. And it was connected to the internet, and apparently it wasn't configured correctly because it was just on and open. And if you did a crawl or a search for it, you could find it and access it without logging. You could just get into it. White hat researcher Anurag Singh alerted TechCrunch, who we got this report from, and it presented their information to the U.S. government, and since fixed the issue.
Admin 123 password set.
It wasn't hacked. We just left the door open.
Like, we forgot to install the door. My bad.
Oh man. That's all for our quick hits. And next
Kenny's
up,
favorite section.
my favorite section. We're going to talk about the cinephiles. Oh, Doug says no hackers found it because how could that happen? That could be so stupid.
Yeah, really. Can't hack it if it's free.
Oh man. Oh, sorry. That one will probably stick with me for a bit. So NATO, not to be confused with the North Atlantic Treaty, but the National Association of Theater Owners, they have a nonprofit foundation, the National Cinema Foundation. They pull theater information. They track some of the stats you know of about like box office numbers and things like that. And they pulled information from the U.S. and the North American box office to give us an idea of how bad the theaters were impacted by the pandemic. And over 2,000 theaters were shuttled during the pandemic.
Oof.
That's pretty rough. Ticket prices, which were around an average of $9.17, rose to $10.53 a ticket. And obviously, depending on what market you're in, if you're like, my tickets are higher, yeah, you're where you live at, it might be higher. My Alamo Draft House is like 13, and that's not including tax and like some service fee or something like that. I think it gets it to 16. So yeah, the one bright spot, worldwide, we added 12,000 theaters across the globe. Now my pessimistic part in me is like, okay, but that as far as like that's good news for blockbusters, like people that are trying to make a ton of money across multiple markets, like that's pretty good news for them. So I don't know. U.S. losing 2,000 means that's probably going to hurt indie folks the most. And with international markets increasing, if your big blockbuster Marvels and DC films and stuff like that will do really well, I kind of think this still hurts the smaller theaters and smaller movie projects.
Mm-hmm. So.
Damn.
You want to take the next one? I'll take the one after.
Yeah. So Karen McCarthy, she was writing on a new ABC on Apple TV, and it's going to be starting a new Apple TV show. Why is this relevant? Well, she got pulled over to Disney to write for the new Star Wars Acolyte show. But I don't know if you heard this week, there's been a lot of cancellations over there on the House of Mouse. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron is going to be the sequel to Rogue One, kind of continuing that Rogue Squadron idea, was canceled. And Kevin Feige's Star Wars project canceled. Taika Waititi's project seems to still be going, but that could still be diced up. And Acolyte is tentatively canceled. Still don't know exactly for sure what's going to happen with it. But for her specifically, they canceled her writing contract, which also meant that she gave up that Apple TV show that was presumably was going to be picked up for years and would have paid her for years. So as long as she's got that written out in contract of what she gave up and what Disney canceled on her, this is actually, at least from a labor sense, a pretty slam dunk. Like Disney will fight it. They'll probably settle out of court. But yeah, when you make certain guarantees to someone and then you're like, nah, well, we don't need you anymore. You'd be like, look, I just gave up 3 years of work to come over.
For real.
Come over you, so
we making this.
We're gonna...
It's like you losing money no matter what. So you can either make it and pay me, or you could not make it and you won't pay me.
Mm-hmm. Doug says people complain about Patty, but her track record for Star Wars is pretty good. Yeah, I would agree. And it's just, I mean, yeah, we talked about the ickiness of Wonder Woman 1984. Like, there's still some good parts of that movie, but there's also some threads of like, maybe we should have taken this part out because that's not. I don't think he thought about what that means for Steve Trevor. That whole body owning thing. Icky.
Oh yeah,
it's like an 80s sci-fi movie when they kind of cross one of those moral boundaries, and you're like, we really should have fought that.
You didn't think about this well enough.
But to Doug's point, yeah, Patty Jenkins has been pretty solid. You got the next one?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the one that kind of spurred off the conversation we were having in the beginning. So after the disappointing box office opening of Ant-Man and the Wasp, disappointing quote unquote, Disney CEO Bob Iger,
Iger.
questions whether there needs to be like a third or fourth iteration. That kind of like sparked off the conversation we were having at the beginning of the show, the pre-show, if you will. That like there's like not every part of the MCU slaps. There's very boring zones. We had to sit through Iron Man 2. We had lukewarm feelings about Iron Man 3. Thor 2 wasn't good, like period. Ant-Man is Ant-Man. It's all right. But it's not Winter Soldier. Every movie can't be Winter Soldier, Iron Man 1. You got to have other stuff that breaks up that breaks up the time. Now, what everybody's still waiting for, which I understand why we don't get because it's super expensive, just top to bottom, is just for a solo Hulk film. Waiting on that, but CGI is expensive. They're already overtaxing everybody.
It's a Universal issue too, because they've got the rights to Hulk, sort of. I got to go back and look at what the issue was there, but it's not the same thing as like Spider-Man Sony owning Spider-Man. That's a little more clear cut of them loaning the character out. The Universal one, I felt like it. I got to go back and look, but they're part of the hang up. So everyone's like, why haven't we? This seems like a slam dunk. It's like, it's a little more.
It is, but it's a legality of like, oh, we have the rights to do X, Y, Z in these contexts for these mediums, but not this or whatever. We can feature the character, but we can't like have them be the main pull or whatever. Okay, all right, well, that's interesting. Yeah. But yeah. Doug said Ant-Man 1 is my favorite movie. It's a good movie, but like it's not what's it called? It's not like Winter Soldier, it's not Captain America 1. Like not to say that it's a bad film, but it doesn't have that same kind of like cultural splash ripple effect that that some of the bigger Marvel movies have. So not to group Ant-Man 1 with Thor Dark World. In terms of like, well, I guess I despite the fact that that's what I did, more so in terms of cultural ripple effect, in terms of like how big of a splash that it makes. I mean, that said, we did just get we did just get Ant-Man 3, which was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Like, I don't know why, they're like, oh, the movie didn't do that good, and it's like, well, it's like, how good did you want it to do? It's like you said, it's the stepping stone for more multiversal razzmatazz. That's fair. Agree to disagree.
Oh man. And then to close out Cinephiles, Jenna Ortega may be reunited with Tim Burton for Beetlejuice 2. You know what? It's fine. I don't know why we want a Beetlejuice.
I don't know who the Beetlejuice 2 is for. It's like, because I feel like it's an old enough character that like the youths don't really have an association with the character, and I don't feel like I'm sure there are people out there for whom like when they hear Beetlejuice 2, like, oh, finally, like I'm sure there's excitement for it, but I'm just like, I don't know, like at least for me growing up, like Beetlejuice had a cartoon, or whatever, and like there was the movie, and that was pretty much it. So like aside from those two things, like I didn't have a big exposure to Beetlejuice, where like he's a major part of my my upbringing in the same way that like like Dragon Ball Z is, or Yu Yu Hakusho or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just, I don't know. Who's this movie for?
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I'm just worried. Like, it seems like Ortega is just getting all of. I was about to say Christina Ricci, but that's no. She's getting all the like late '90s, or sorry, I guess like late '80s or '90s goth girl roles. It's like she's just going to reprise Christina Ricci's and Winona Ryder's roles from the past. And I'm kind of like, if she ends up doing Sleepy Hollow or like pick a or I'm trying to think of some other ones that would have been like that. I so she's great. It's not a knock on her. I just don't want her to get typecast because I think she can do a lot more. She's definitely got some great range as an actress. So, now if she really she's like, I love goth shit, and that's what she wants to do, cool. But I think also there's a double-edged sword when it comes to Hollywood because they'll tend to want to just put you in certain
cookie cutter
boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, Doug said it best to be like a cool idea that stands on its own, and I agree. Like if you're gonna do a Beetlejuice 2, like this far away from when Beetlejuice came out or when any Beetlejuice IP is in like the public spectrum, like it has to be like a decent film by itself. Like what's it called? Like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker are doing a Rush Hour 4. And like part of the reason that Jackie didn't do Rush Hour 4 like before now was because he was like, we don't need to do a Rush Hour 4. Like show me a good script for Rush Hour 4 and we'll do Rush Hour 4. But like, if we just doing it just to do it, like no. So apparently, like they finally gave him something worth doing, and hopefully, Beetlejuice will be the same way, and it's not just like, hey, look at me, what's up, kids? It's Beetlejuice.
I hope so. I mean, if it's at least like Ghostbusters Afterlife, I could take that.
Yeah,
because I don't know how many people.
Good.
I think more people should have seen it. I think it was pretty. There's just like one nostalgia thing at the end. I'm kind of like, oh, this is a bit much. This is all right. I found my line. I found my line in this movie.
I thought it was fine. I was like, this is good.
But like overall, like Phoebe, or the McKenna Grace is fantastic in that movie. Her and that ghost granddad is what I like. All that interaction was really good. I like it. So, all right. That's all we got for Cinephiles.
Real quick, Taryn said that it's a small sample size, but the 8 and 10-year-old kids of their best friend are super into Beetlejuice. So maybe it's for the kids of people who were raised on it. I don't know. Like I said, that kind of depends. I guess if your parents are into Beetlejuice, or if you have particularly spooky parents, maybe that you've been exposed to it before. But or I don't know what children's shows are out right now. So I'm like, maybe there's a kids like cartoon of remake of Beetlejuice that's out. I don't know. Interesting.
I was gonna say if the reruns are available on streaming, that could also
maybe. They're like, yo, kids, sit down here and learn some of your history. About to get spooky. Rewatch Nightmare Before Christmas and some Beetlejuice. Alrighty, let's get into some check the tech. Hey, we got.
We can't check the tech.
Oh wait, hold up. I scrolled down.
You know what time it is?
It's game time. My bad.
Game time.
It's the best time.
Although it is going to be a rather short game time. There's not a lot of game news right now.
Well, there is, but I was tired, so we skipped over. Capcom did a whole razzmatazz yesterday. I couldn't watch it. I was tired, so we'll go through it another time.
Yeah, and there was a Nintendo Direct where the Super Mario trailer came out, but they also had some other announcements in there that I didn't have time to dive into.
So there's stuff going on.
We'll do it next week if it's relevant, and talk about that
in the scope.
So like we said at the top of the hour, Suicide Squad and RoboCop are going to be delayed. There were some histrionics. Some people were like being hysterical online. Oh God, it's going to be delayed till next year.
As they always are.
Calm down. Suicide Squad was supposed to come out in May. Most likely going to be later in the year. They said polish was the main thing. So
don't they always though?
Don't they always? But it just sounds like kind of like there were some bugs when the demos and stuff were showing out in February.
I mean, that's fair.
I think legitimately this one
is as opposed to when CD Projekt Red was like, "Oh yeah, we going to delay the game." It's just a little bit buggy, and we want to make sure it's good. And then they were like, "Oh, how many consoles we releasing this on? 6?"
God. Oh.
Honestly, I empathize with them a little bit because I'm like, when you're developing for like multiple browsers, like the worst shit is when you're like, yo, hey, this thing works, but like it doesn't work in like IE7. And it's like, oh, well, why does that matter? And it's like 40% of our user base uses IE7. And I'm like, but we're on like IE14 now. And it's like, yeah.
It's like that may be true. but this is what your base is. So you
Yeah.
gotta.
It's like, come on, man. That was the worst. Like that was when I knew, like, as an undergrad, I was like, yo, I hate front end design. If I ever have to do this again, I'm quitting school. I'm gonna go rap. Forget this.
Along with that, so yeah, most likely, possibly fall release. RoboCop, Metro City was supposed to come out. Sorry, Rogue City.
Mm-hmm.
Was supposed to come out in June. It's been pushed back to September, although the date hasn't been announced for that. So now some people were wondering, hey, are they going to take out the transactions for cosmetic stuff or remove the online requirement? Probably
Be
not.
pretty sick. It'd be cooler if you did.
So those are legitimate complaints. So I don't disagree with everyone that feels that way, but no, they're not. No, they're not taking it out. Come on, y'all. It's Warner Brothers. They've been canceling stuff. I've actually, I was gonna say, I was like, I'm surprised they didn't just outright cancel the game, but they need that sweet game money.
Mm-hmm. It's like if you're a video game creator, and well, a big name video game creator. Big name is in quotes. It's like you got to capitalize on loot boxes and all sorts of other things before it gets outlawed globally. So they're trying to squeeze all that in before you while you can. Like they're not getting rid of that stuff.
Not getting rid of that stuff.
So you probably got like another year to make money off of loot boxes before they're like squashed in a legal sense.
Yeah,
pretty much everywhere.
And the other thing is like I personally, if I were a company, would just get out, because if you keep doing it while legislation is going forward or there's lawsuits,
Mm-hmm.
there may be a limit to how far back they'll go. But if you do that this year and like some stuff comes out, that's not smart.
This is wasted development. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right.
You're rolling some dice.
Dice roll. Let's go. Speaking of dice rolls, 50 Cent is making a Vice City game, and no, we're not talking about that one. So hold up, wait, why is this in the game time segment? So apparently the synopsis announcement came out. It cleared up some confusion that fans had about 50's involvement in this particular game. It just shares the name with the game, like the title of Rockstar's GTA sequel, and apparently nothing else. Yeah. But the series is going to follow 3 veterans as they readjust to living their lives post-military and turning to crimes to make ends meet, which kind of sounds more like well, not quite like True Crimes, but there was like another game that 50 had on I think the GameCube. I can't remember what it was called.
Didn't he have 2?
He had 2.
50 Cent Bulletproof, and then Life something. I vaguely can see the box art.
Yeah, me too. And I think I'm confusing with True Crimes because it had a similar color scheme of like white and red, or like black, red and black.
Oh, right. Streets of LA and then New York. Oh.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's making a Vice City game. No, it's not that. It's not the one that you think.
All right, I just want to make one adjustment. I thought it was no. So this is with Paramount Plus, Lionsgate TV.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say series, it's going to be like TV show. Sorry. So I shouldn't have put it in the game section.
well, too bad. We're calling it. We've talked about it as a video game. It's written in stone. He's making a video game. It's going to be a remake. It's 50 Cent Bulletproof 2. It's called $1. It's 2.50 cents.
A whole dollar.
That's funny.
A whole dollar more.
Let me see. Okay, we got one more. So apparently,
this one. I'll take this one. Take this one
for
it pissed me
off.
Yeah.
Tilt.
So Square Enix did an earnings report about Forspoken. What's that?
Squeenix.
Yep. And said due to lackluster reviews, low scores on their game, they got lackluster figures on Forspoken like they expect. It's not didn't perform how they were expecting. I just and there's a Seth Rogen thing that came out recently, which is coming from a different angle. So there's a reason I'm kind of in a mood about this. So there's a piece on Variety by Seth Rogen talking about the negativity of online critics. And I think he is right that sometimes reviewers go overboard and try to get clicks. They just say some outlandish things and maybe go a little too far or get personal, which I'm like, that's out of bounds.
Your game is bad and you should feel bad.
Yeah. And I also think just because a lot of online places don't have a great editorial process, you don't have an editor reading your review to say like, hey, no, maybe we should let's think about what we're saying there. Do you actually need to say that to get your point across? So I'm gonna probably talk about that late next week when we do our movie show and dive into that. So I think Seth is right in that sense. But this is the other part of his interview and where the Square Enix piece kind of pisses me off. Do you want people to go watch it regardless of how we reviewed it? Like, you would feel good having the money in your pocket of this game that is, like, as people get it, are going to be like, oh, this isn't great, right? So that's kind of what I'm not trying to say. That's the only alternative to what they're saying, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting out of sense when they talk about like, well, this didn't do as well as we wanted it to, and gosh, the reviews really strung it down. I'm like, or maybe this is crazy. This is no, everyone sit down for this one. Make a better game.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to knock. I know a lot of hard work goes into movies, games, TV shows, board games, and then sometimes it just doesn't all gel together the way you want it to. So like, that's not trying to knock the hard work that happened. And I know that based on these decisions and how people buy the game, that's going to result in like, does that studio stay solvent? Do we keep the jobs that we brought them for the like? Totally get all that. So I'm not trying to be flippant when I say that. It's just, I don't know, like blame it on, it's not the review's fault about how we feel about the game. That's just, I'm sorry. Like if it wasn't our reviews, then it'd be word of mouth only. And yeah, you'd get away with some sales early, but then once that word of mouth gets out, they're going to not buy that game. And then you're going to run into issues later down the road. But let's just take reviews out of it. If it's only advertising and word of mouth, I think that actually hurts you worse. Because I think you get a lot of initial sales early on, and you're just going to keep shaking, baking people, and eventually they're going to be like, nah, we're good. We're out.
Yeah. I think to that point, usually like the executive level, like you'll be like, oh, the reviews aren't good, and so because of that, or the reception, it wasn't as well received as we wanted it to be from a financial perspective, so because of that, we're not going to support it or do this, that, or the other. But like when a game is bad, like usually it's either a small studio or the director or developers who will say, we messed up, or we went in this artistic direction and we wanted to focus on XYZ, and it fell short of what we wanted to communicate to the players. Yeah. Like the executives never make that statement. Like, to bring up CD Projekt Red again, when they gave their apology, it was from the top down of like, we messed up. We tried to do too much. Like, I'm the directive head or the director or the CEO or whatever of CD Projekt Red, and this is what we tried to do, and we overcommitted and we didn't deliver. My bad.
Yeah.
But we're gonna keep working on it because you paid for it, and we want to make sure that this game, even if it doesn't start good, we want it to end good. In a similar fashion to what's the name of that game? Big space game.
Oh, No Man's Sky.
Yep, No Man's Sky. Thank you. I was pulling up my Steam right now. No Man's Sky. Like basically, from my understanding, for anybody who's watched the internet historian. He has a video called "The Ingoodening of No Man's Sky." The long and short of that is basically that, like, when the CEO, or not the maybe the CEO, but the director of the game, every time he did an interview, he kept saying yes to stuff. He's like, "Oh man, can, like, can you do this thing, and can you meet up with your friends, and can you guys build the same thing, and you do this, and you build a ship together, and can you do whatever?" And he was like, "Yep, yep, yep," and he just never said no. And so, they over committed, and it was just like, for the stuff that their team wanted to do, they couldn't do it all before for the 1.0. But like,
Yeah.
it's been, I know, I think they just had their 5-year celebration. That doesn't sound right. It's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think it's been longer.
Maybe it's 5 years. I'm not sure when, but they just, the game's been out for several years now, and the game's fantastic. Like, the reviews for when it came out versus now, night and day. Like, it's an amazing game.
2016.
Okay, yeah. So it's been a hot minute, more than 5 years. But yeah, it's usually when you see, like, somebody come forward and say, "Hey, this is the reviews are the way they are because it's bad, and we didn't do what we wanted, what we had set out to do." Like, usually you only get that from the developers, but, like, when the company makes a public statement and they're big enough that, like, the CEO isn't a director for the game, like, you never get that kind of stuff. Like, the only reason that, like, we get it we get it at all is because of small companies, like Labor of Love type stuff, or companies like No Man's Sky, who I think they also came forward and had their own thing, several years ago, of, sorry guys, we're gonna keep working on it. Like, someday it'll be the game that you paid for, but it's not gonna be just yet. And it's like CD Projekt Red and No Man's Sky Company, Hello Games, do that kind of stuff, but I don't think we're gonna get it from big companies. So they're gonna brush under the rug. I'm like, oh man, it's those reviews, crazy.
Shucks. Yeah. I want to talk about that more, but because I could, that for a bit. Because there's multiple elements. It strikes at some stuff I've been feeling on how the relationship between the audience, reviewers, and the creators has gotten to, because I don't think it's in a great spot. But I think each portion of that has some really valid things to bring up. All right. We're on to Check the Tech, our last segment. In a little, we teased it. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on with TikTok. So we got some good stuff. Actually, I'll say this one real quick, because I could also go on for a bit about VR and what's going on right now. The VR, the Meta Quest Pro started at $14.99, has been lowered to $9.99, which was marketed primarily to businesses and professionals. And the Quest 2 headset was at $4.99, has dropped down to $4.29. And I'm just gonna, I'll surmise it just like this: we need a killer VR app. I think the thing that is holding VR back, like, if you want to say the 90s and early 2000s were the golden age of gaming, I think there's a strong argument for that. With your Super Nintendo, N64, going into GameCube, your PlayStation 1, PS2, a little bit of Xbox. I know Sega was kind of trailing off there, but you still got some Genesis run there in the 90s. And but the reason those consoles did so well is you had killer apps. You just had games that came out where people can, like,
dynamite games, just peeling them off the bone.
Yeah. And when I try to think about VR outside of, like, Half-Life, Alex, Rec Room, Lone Echo, you got, and there's definitely more than that. I'm kind of blanking right now. Or you get ports, and some of the ports are really solid. Like the Resident Evil 4 port is fantastic. That actually is really great. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if Village has come out yet. No. I think it'll be later. It'll be later this year. I think it's later this year. And I think that'll probably be really solid, just based on what they did on Resident Evil 4. You put that in VR, yeah, that'd be good. You got it. Like, we almost need the Nintendo seal of approval back when Atari had
Yeah.
gone so far and had let so many bad titles get onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And you go into the VR marketplace, and there's just so much garbage. There's so much garbage, and you're just wading through, and you're like, I don't know if I want to spend. I don't know if I want to risk 10, $20 on this thing when it looks meh at best.
The thing for VR, and there's some other stuff I want to add about VR, about headsets that have recently come out. But I feel like the thing about VR, and real quick, I'll hop into Doug's comments. He said Beat Saber is pretty good. Beat Saber is really cool, but Beat Saber came out a long time ago. And
Yeah,
it was good when it came out, but like for a lot of VR folks, like, okay, when you're listing, like, really really good games that are universally popular, like Beat Saber is like the first one I think of as well. Not to say there's not other good games, because I keep a list of VR games that I want to play once I get my hands on a VR headset. But one of the difficulties is that it's hard to view VR headsets more than like a game periphery, or like or a tertiary thing to add for games. Like, and for you and I who grew up, like, we've seen like tons of like, peripheral things like the Super Nintendo scope. There's
yeah.
the other like extra stuff that goes along with the experience that like is a lot of money, but like, is it worth it? Question mark, question mark, dot, dot, dot. And it's like, playing Duck Hunt was super cool and a lot of fun. But it's like, for some
But
folks, they
you,
might be viewing like VR headsets within that same category of like, do I really need this to enjoy the experience? How much more is this, $1,500 like price tag going to add to my gaming experience? Like, is this going to be a whole new way of experiencing games, or is this just going to be like pretty neat? And how valuable is pretty neat? And I'll use that to kind of pivot. Linus Tech Tips just came out with a video just like a few days ago, earlier this week, where PlayStation is has like just come out with their new VR headset, and I think the price point of that is about $500. And at least in his opinion, he says that like that is the best headset like on the market. Like, it completely blows away everything else, and everything else is priced way higher. And so like for PlayStation players, like, granted, like you have like a selection of like 25 games to pick from for VR compatibility on PlayStation.
Oh yeah. For the
For right
PSVR
now.
library is actually pretty deep, but what you'll be able to play on PS5 on that headset is smaller.
Limited. And
But yeah, to your point, real quick, everything I've heard
Mhm.
about the headset, like, as much as I love the Valve Index, apparently it just, from fidelity, lightweight, and it just check, just boom, boom, boom,
Yep.
hitting every box. So sorry,
And
continue.
the wires, like everybody who I've seen who has a VR headset is like, look at all these cables that you have. And one of the things that the PS5's headset resolves is that like it's very minimalist in that regard. It doesn't make you like, okay, plug these 12 things into your computer and then you're good to go. It's like I almost need like a whole nother desk to put my VR headset on once I get
You
one.
do, because like because of there's the PSVR box, and you have to like oh sorry, this just broke me, because like some people got to see my setup in my old house,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to like finagle stuff in my bedroom to the living room to play stuff, like, and it's a very niche problem, but it does talk about the problem with that box. And it's like, as soon as you start splitting signals, you get to degradation, and just it can propagate a problem. And just found multiple issues through that. I won't go into all that right now. Maybe I'll save that for a PSVR video. But like, yeah, I love it because what I had to deal with was a nightmare. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to jump into the comments that we have. Doug had mentioned that he's not worried about rushing into VR as long as it's still developing. And that the original Apple II was extremely successful in its era, but like over the lifetime, over 10 years, only sold 4.8 million units. And I think like that's kind of where Okay, yeah, he said, and he added Apple sells like 5 million iPhones a month now. That's bonkers. And I think like, oh, and also like the usability of those is different too, where they kind of push you to do that. And it makes them a lot of money too. So yeah, but like and I think that's like an important like point for where VR is that a lot of people like we see that VR is like developing and it's developing and we're getting new stuff, but like what folks probably want to see more of is they need. Here's a good example. When I was a kid, when I wanted to get a new console or like a new system, my mom was like, "All right, you need to give me a list of at least like, n number of games that you want for me to get you this thing. You need to do good on your report card, blah blah blah." But like you need to have enough like quote unquote market buy-in of like you can't just buy a VR headset just because you want to buy Beat Saber, because like with if you buy the Quest Pro or whatever, that's $1,000. You can't play like reasonably you can't pay $1,000 to just play one game.
Yeah, it'd be cheaper for you to buy a used PS4 and a PlayStation headset and just do that, or
do that instead. But like, so you gotta like, for me, the reason I'm maintaining a list of Steam games that I have, like, this is like, okay, when I get a VR headset, like I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games that I want to get, and I'm like, now I have more of a motivation because I'm like, I have a ton of games, like I can check up on the quality, they still getting updates, are the games completed, everything's done, full experience, all the bugs resolved or major bugs resolved, that kind of stuff. And so I'm still keeping tabs on it. Like I haven't made the jump yet. I will eventually, but like I'm waiting kind of for the market explosion to hit, which I feel like is inevitable. Like I feel like at some point, all of the auxiliary stuff that I'll say VR encourages will kind of hit, where like, there's the personal unit. Like I don't really know what to describe them as, but like I'll call it an experience machine, where it's like you have a VR headset and you have this apparatus that you can stand in and run on, and you use the controller and you can move around in like a free space thing. Like, and I feel like for the folks who might be like way on the far side of wanting to get a VR headset, like they're waiting for that to become like at least kind of affordable. Where like if they want the VR headset thing, like there's tons of memes of like somebody swinging something in their house or whatever, and they turn around and like whack their kid or like whack the TV or like smash the chandelier or whatever. They're like, I'll wait until we're past that, and then once I can stand in like a little cube or whatever, put the VR headset on and run around and play whatever game, it's like that's the time, like that's the flipping point. For me it's always a price point thing of like new stuff is coming out, and like $1,000 price point for like a thing that will let me play a handful of games is just too much of a buy-in for me. I got a huge backlog of stuff that conventional old like style games that I haven't worked my way through. And like a VR headset is just like, it will be really cool to play Resident Evil 4 and like be able to toss my gun in the air and catch it and then fire off. Like that would be exceptionally fun. Like, it would be great. For $1,000, $1,500, $800, I'm like, I could wait.
Yeah, we were doing some VR meetups. I think we should probably start that back.
Yeah. That'd be sick. Yeah, a friend of mine does I guess like he does like clips and videos, and he'll also do some, I guess it's promotional ad work for VR games, because he has like a pretty decent following. Maybe I'll ask him and get his opinion. I'll see if he's interested in swinging by on the show. He can let us know how he feels about VR, because he engages with it all the time, and he produces like artwork screenshots and all that sorts of stuff. And he does like when you see a really fancy cool screenshot for like a VR game, like he's one of those people who does that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to get his perspective on it.
I've also really wanted to do a show in VR. I'd have to figure out. There's just some logistics.
We could do it in the metaverse. Doug just mentioned VR chat is more successful in the metaverse. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Something like Zuckerberg, sometimes you just gotta let the thing happen, man. Sometimes you're trying to make fetch happen, man. You just gotta let it happen.
He's trying, man. He's trying. He's like, yo, he's like, he's gonna keep working on it, and like one day he's gonna get it. Or, something terrible will happen and Facebook will dissolve in its entirety before that happens. But if it doesn't, there you go.
At least we got some nice headsets out of it.
Oh man! Alrighty.
I didn't expect the job. That's why I didn't want to do it, because I knew we got to talk VR, and I'd be like, what's next?
Who's gonna go
this one's actually pretty quick though. Google Workspaces. So if you use Google Docs, Google Drive has gotten an update. So some of it is just like some UI refreshes, kind of cleaning up where some buttons and stuff are at. There's been some much needed Google Drive batch. Like if you and I was cleaning up the Nerd Union Google Drive folders recently, just trying to get some stuff moved over, and I found how cumbersome like this is. And I was like, man, I want to use Apple Finder or Windows File Explorer. Like this is. I'm actually getting like physically upset at how bad this is. So when I heard there was some updates, just how you can manage files in Google Drive, I was like, yes, thank you. So a lot easier to do some like batch edits and things like that.
Nice.
That just released this week, and if you've like refreshed your Google Docs recently on mobile and on desktop, you'll probably see the slight refresh. Not a major change, but
little touch-ups.
A little touch-up.
Fresh coat of paint. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, I got you. So yeah, Uber is apparently asking the question, what can Uber do to make your airport experience better? Apparently the answer is pictures. Honestly, we think this is pretty great. It'll allow users to see exactly where they need to go, signs, doors, hallways, etc. And allows you to avoid getting lost and missing your ride, especially if you order it a bit early as you're walking up to the parking areas. That's kind of neat. Basically, it tells you where to go. I know for a lot of different airports, it's like they now have adapted. At least for some of the major airports, it's like okay, like it's like specifically rideshare pickup is over here. And like now they have signs and stuff, but if you don't like to read signs, or if you don't live at a major airport that designates a special area for that thing, this could be a useful feature. It's pretty good.
Apparently, it's rolled out to 30 airports so far, with more to be added as they update the information. And sometimes some parts of the airport are labeled really well, and you come out of one area and you just can't. I'll be honest, like I was in O'Hare recently, like a couple months ago, and trying to figure out where the rideshare was for that, or even just not rideshare. I was trying to get to the metro. I was just trying to get on the subway rail, and it was like, what did y'all do? Why did you design it like this?
Who put this here?
Next up. If you're a chip manufacturer, you make semiconductors in the U.S. or U.S.-based company, if you take on any of the CHIPS Act, this is a new Semiconductor Chip Act passed by the Biden administration, I believe it was a year and a half ago, but it's just now some of that money is being divvied out. They're adding some conditions if you have factories in China or planning to expand into China, where effectively you need to spend the money in the U.S. And I don't necessarily have a dog in this hunt. I think it would be great for U.S. Like people trying to get U.S. jobs. Probably not for the U.S. consumer, at least from a price standpoint. We have to see how this affects the price of like graphic cards and so on and so forth. It depends like what gets built here. And this is just from overall security concerns, which we're going to get to when we talk in the TikTok section of like, why is the U.S. government trying to ban TikTok? It's a security thing. Like some of it's a worry about proprietary information and different things like that. But whether it's completely justified, we can have that conversation because some of it is, some of it's not. But this is still the semiconductor piece is like, yeah, it's a competition as far as like price and trying to keep more stuff over the U.S. But there's also like 10% of it's like security concern, a patent concern. Because even when you have companies that do work in China and are like, yeah, we'll happily have our stuff built in China, there's always this patent concern of, did you just rip our graphic card design off and now we're selling it on the Chinese market for like
what? No.
$200-$300 less? What? Whenever you see Chinese cards and you're like, you're trying to figure out like, wait, why does this work with NVIDIA? The long and short of it is I'm not trying to say every company steals, but so I want to be clear, I'm not trying to cast that light on every Chinese company, but it is rampant enough to where it's a concern.
Yeah, the chip action, like I just read this note for the first time, and I know a bunch of things concerning what the U.S. wants to do in terms of putting themselves in a position to in the long and short to use like just short layperson's verbiage, just to be more powerful than China. A lot of that game is going to be played on relations with Taiwan, because they produce a lot of they have a massive superconductor. They have a massive chip market, and they produce a lot of it. So being on good graces with them, and then trying to like not control, but like put themselves in better relations with those producers, or trying to get them to move to the US, or hiring major individuals in that market who can create businesses in the US. I like my gears are starting to turn, because I know a whole bunch of like disconnected information and related to that, in terms of like the world stage and chip production in general, and U.S., Chinese, and Taiwan relations and that kind of stuff. But I need to let it congeal. And I'm like, this is like new information. I'm like, wait, is this? It's like the big board thing. Looking at all the conspiracy theories and whatnot. Not really a conspiracy theory, but just like tying together information. But it's complicated, so I'll probably come back to this maybe another week. Oh yeah, this is the one that you had brought up a little bit earlier. So Bing, Microsoft adds personality features to the Bing chatbot. A new switch, creative versus precise, will give users more control over how the bot talks to them or provides answers to their prompts. The idea is that hopefully the toggles will give them more pause with the creative mode, like basically not to take the information at face value. This reminded me of what was the movie? Interstellar, where they get into the spaceship for the first time, and they're like, like more human slaves for my robot comedy, and he's like, what's your humor rating set at? And he's like, they set it at 10. It's like they thought you guys would need more humor to help get to relax for the trip, and he's like, yeah, let's bring that down to a 7. And he's like, you won't be talking like that once I blast you out the airlock. He's like, and let's bring that down to a 4. Like everybody gets to configure the sassiness of their robot, their robot companion.
Yeah, because he's like the honesty setting.
Yeah.
He was like, you don't always want 100% honesty all the time. He was like, all right, 95, or it was like 90 it is, or like whatever it is.
Yeah. Taryn said, "Oh, if only the people wouldn't take the internet at face value." And it's like, yeah, nobody lies on the internet. What are you talking about?
Oh,
you think people do that? Just go on the internet and lie? It's bonkers.
Hilarious. This one is, so various insiders are talking about this possibly like could be close. So back in I think I put 2010 in the notes, but I think it's actually 2011. Apple, when it was still under Steve Jobs, bought a glucose monitoring company that would try to detect on the skin, would use a laser to detect your glucose levels based on laser on your skin, which means you wouldn't need to prick. And while glucose monitors have gotten better and better with less blood year after year after year, and this would be massive if it could already be in a device that you want to own, as opposed to just like, oh, I want to own multiple techs. Then I also have to have combining that together would be amazing.
That'd be pretty fresh.
On top of early detection, especially for type 2 diabetes, like that pre-diabetic condition that could lead to type 2 and probably give you some indications and some warnings that that you need to make some adjustments before you ever get to that point. Could be really, really massive. Now, Apple has not confirmed it, but what the insiders have told us, it's actually, let me pull back. It's Engadget. Sorry, I was about to say TechCrunch, but Engadget. What they told Engadget specifically was there had been a larger model, so like you could go in, put your hand under this laser, and get pretty reliable results. They've now been able to miniaturize it for field testing to see how reliable it is on the go. So it still hasn't been put into a watch yet, but they have like a smaller model that now you can test the laser going about your daily
That's
life.
pretty spiffy.
So
I mean, even if it doesn't get to the point where they can put everything that they want to put into a smartwatch on and then add that in on top of it, even if it doesn't get there, having a portable version, a portable no prick version, is still huge.
Yeah,
like that's still pretty big.
Yeah. So I said in the notes, like, I rag on Apple a lot, but that one's
good move, Steve Jobs ghosts. bringing honor to the Steve name. A little bit.
Yeah. That's all we got for Check the Tech, and we're gonna get to our last topic. We talked about it a little bit.
TikTok on ice.
Nah,
everybody's favorite ice capade, TikTok.
TikTok on I see what you did there, because my segment intro for my topic title was TikTok on ice. So good job. I like it. You were playing off me and I ruined it.
Nah, you figured it out. I just removed one word from the title in our show notes.
So we are not going for the entire TikTok timeline, but we are going to do some recent updates that happened. So back in February, TikTok was being a lot more open about their API, giving more people access to it. This is specifically nonprofit research centers is who they're aiming us at, as far as who could look at the API, the TikTok API. I think that was also specifically to alleviate some security concerns. And it has to be, those requests, especially if they're North American driven, like someone wants to use it, needs to be approved by their U.S. security division. That was in February. Also, what started in that month was the bill that has now been approved out of the House committee, is probably going to go to a vote in the House, which is basically a ban on TikTok fully. Now, we were focused on TikTok. The reason, and this probably would have been bipartisan supported, what was highlighted in 24 in committee, 24 Republicans voted yes toward it, 16 Democrats said no. The language in the bill apparently is very broad.
Isn't it always, though? When it comes to tech stuff, they're like, I'm not going to lie, I don't really understand this entirely, so I'm just going to make broad, sweeping suggestions that give you jurisdiction to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, and I have not had a chance to read the bill itself, so this is based on reporting from Engadget and Yahoo Finance. But things that quotes from Democratic House members that were there is about it being too broad. And when it comes to making a sweeping ban, like if you're gonna do a very specific app, even in law, that could be there's some ways they could do it, but even that could be a little. I'm trying to think what's the best way to describe this. Banning a specific company internationally is going to have some ripple effects.
Mm-hmm.
It
sets precedent. It sets precedent.
Yeah, it's not that you legally can't do it. There's just, but on the other end, if it's too broad, this is a hammer that could get thrown at so many companies, Chinese-based companies.
Just because.
It could also say that again.
Just because. And it's so for part of the reason that people are against it, which I agree and understand is that it needs, at least it sets a weird, to use a simple term, fucky precedent, where like Kenneth said, like if you're gonna ban a single company, like, from your country, like, yes, we can point at TikTok and be like, yeah, I understand that. Or maybe you don't. But we can point out like a company, and like we can be like, yeah, I understand that. But then, what about this other company? And what about this other company? And like, oh, that they represent a national security risk. And like, oh, they're influencing the minds of Americans by means, is like, you can, when we start pointing to game companies, and we start pointing to, food distributors and like different kinds of stuff. And it's like, oh, they're influencing the American people, and I believe it's in a negative way, so we should ban them. And so, then you start going down that route, and things that aren't as big and ubiquitous as TikTok start getting that hammer thrown at them. So like, I understand the reason for hesitancy, even within TikTok's sake, of like, yes, this is like it's owned by a huge company, and they have access to, tons and tons and heaps of information and data. And they can use their algorithm to influence individuals, especially youths. I'm in the camp that, TikTok is basically just expressly bad for children. It offers them functionally, it creates a lot of stress for them, and offers them functionally nothing in terms of like boons or improvements to quality of life. And that's not to say like there is no useful information on TikTok whatsoever, but like, children are little shits, and they just use they're going to use technology to harass each other or bully, in whatever form or fashion. And TikTok is one way that makes that very easy or very accessible. It's one thing if you bully somebody by like, oh, I sent you a nasty email, ha ha ha. And it's another thing if like, your story is filled with your friends or, schoolmates or whatever, harassing you and sending you stuff. But that's a little bit of a tangent. But yeah, overall, I understand the motivation to ban TikTok, but I also understand the hesitancy. And like there's got to be like a very fine balance between, trying to ban this thing that's has its roots in the Chinese society, and is not necessarily exempt from being what's the word I'm looking for, taken advantage of by the Chinese government, because
Right.
in the same way that that the U.S. government has tried to leverage tech companies to give them information on into people indiscriminately.
Yeah, it's why. Yeah, some of this is kind of hilarious. It's not. I'm not trying to advocate that any country should do it. I just think sometimes seeing the U.S. position on it is a little bit like.
It's like, yeah, they're afraid of China doing what they wanted, what they try to do. Like, I completely get it. It's like, oh man, they can't have access to all that user data. And it's like, it would be terrible for us. And it's like, because that's our data. It's like, we want that. We want the data that the Chinese government would have on our people, not they have. We want them to have it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, unless it's Russia, in which case we don't do enough on it.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're not ready for that conversation.
Low heat, medium warm takes. Tepid takes. There you go.
I think it's tepid, but
it's not. It's tepid.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So
we'll probably look at the bill and try to give you. I know I'm a legal nerd like that, so I'll try to give you some more details on it, or just give you my opinion that it's completely trash once I dive into it.
Tepid takes. New TikTok bill, absolute hot dog water, says Kenneth.
It might be. No, yeah, it is.
Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the end, which means pick of the week for Nintendo Razzmatazz.
All right.
So I have 3 guesses as to what I think you'll pick for your Mario game. Well, first I'll tell you mine, because mine is one of the 3. Mine is Super Mario All Stars, old school Super Nintendo. Basically has Mario 1, Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, or Mario Brothers 3. All that razzmatazz. Great game because it consists of like 6 games. But the other two I thought you would say would be, I would either go for Paper Mario or the universal favorite Mario Sunshine. The other option, the old head option was Super Mario RPG,
Okay.
but not a lot of people, not as many people have played that.
Yes. Your second option is super close. It is a Paper Mario game.
Is it Thousand Year Door?
No, although I do really love that one too.
Okay.
I oddly really like Color Splash. I don't know what it is about
that
it.
was
It started
the one
on the Wii U, and
on
I think they did it.
The Wii U, yeah.
And then they did a Switch port to it. I don't know. The mechanic of it, super simple for me. It latched onto me, and like it's one
cool.
I find myself going back to play a lot. Now, I bet if I went back and played Thousand Year Door, because I have not played it in a while, I'm sure if I went back to it, maybe my answer would change right now. I'd be like, oh yeah, of course, obviously.
Yeah. Thousand Year Door was pretty cool. But I didn't get to play the one that you had mentioned, but because I didn't have a Wii U, but my friend had one, so I got to watch him play it. It was neat. It was different. But I have a special place for Paper Mario. That one's a good one. Doug said Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. That was an amazing game. It's so much fun. I think I have the first two games. And I think they made a third, but I know I didn't get the third if there was a third. But yeah, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, great game.
Doug says I'm weird. You know what, Doug?
Nice.
No, it's fine. Okay. Actually, I guess maybe to be fair, if I take out like recent stuff, then like Steve's right, Paper Mario would have been high because my brother, like I had an SNES, my brother had NES, and he gave me his Super Nintendo. So but the first console that I really had my own was the N64. So like most of my Mario memories, at least for like, oh yeah, I wanted that game and I played the game. Most of it came from N64. So like Paper Mario definitely be on there. Super Mario 64, that would be on there. That's definitely the one I first actually got the beat all the way through. The NES, Super NES ones kicked my ass. Something about once the platforming went 3D, it's like my brain had an easier time. I'm like, oh, okay.
Now
you get to some of
and that's also a major testament to just Nintendo at the time. Like their 3D movement was like so intuitive and like so fluid. It was just very easy to understand like where you were in space and like how to get someplace else.
Yeah. One thing I was gonna say when you were talking about peripherals is like the Duck Hunt one worked really well, I think, because of the bundle. So it's like you just you just got that, you got used to it. You didn't have to go out and grab it. And the Wiimote, I don't think it would have worked if it hadn't been, this is how you play on the console. Like this is the main controller. We're gonna come out with some other ones later. We're gonna have like we have a zapper and we'll have like a more classic controller. But like this is the way you go and play. You have to use the nunchuck. You have to use the Wiimote, right? And then it had Wii Sports, which
Wii Sports taught you how to play the game, how to play the console.
They they're just replaying the NES hits with the zapper. They're just doing the same thing.
The Wii, like I can't say it enough. The Wii was like ahead of its time. Like using shifting away from the traditional controller, like joystick controller style like scheme, was like revolutionary and a thing that game developers at the time were not ready for. Like as evidenced by the fact of like now we have all these VR games and like you can just hold the controllers and move around and do stuff, blah blah blah. Like they weren't ready at the time. Also evidenced by the fact that the Wii like barely has any good third-party games. Like every game when you're like, oh man, the Wii has so many games, and like basically when like the top 10 list of games that you name on the Wii are going to be like core Nintendo games, because like their developers understood how to use the controller in a creative way. Every time you look at like third party games for the Wii, it's just hot dog water from end to end, where it's like, oh man, carnival games, and it's like, oh, you like that carnival
Yeah.
game, like you throw the ball into the hole, right? And you're
And
like,
it's a bunch. It's all
yeah, check this out.
No, that's it. That's it. That's the VR comparison. That's it.
Yep,
That's it. We're
100%.
yes, yeah. So the Nintendo seal of approval really works here, because we need someone to come in. We need some. He said Link's crossbow training. We could use some of that. We need a star. We need like 10, 20 solid like Beat Sabers to come out.
Straight up, all you need to do is release Metroid Prime 1, 2, 3 in VR. That's the game
they already
changer.
have the data for it, because you did the collection on the Wii.
That's the game changer. Once you start to see like adaptations of once you start to see more adaptations of VR stuff and reasonable price points for headsets, because we ain't looking at no $1,500, $1,000 type stuff. Once you start to see that kind of stuff to shift to, once there's like a market reason for large companies to move that kind of stuff to VR, like I think then you'll see like a massive explosion in interest in VR. Because like you said, like one of the reasons is like there's just like you look at the VR headset for PS5 or whatever, and like it's at a great price point, but there's like 25 games to play. It's not enough.
Right.
Like it's good stuff. It's good games. And the games that are coming out, like Doug, you mentioned RE4 on VR. I've seen a couple of like GIFs and screenshots and stuff. My friend who does the recording stuff has shown me a bunch of stuff, and his stuff looks really cool, and it looks like a great fun time. But like the backlog of great stuff on VR, there's a lot of good stuff. There's a couple of great things, but the backlog's not quite there yet. The price point's a little too high, and then like the I know this game is good, like knowledge from the consumer base isn't quite there. Because like you said, like you're going through the log, and there's just like swaths and swaths of like medium quality games on VR, and you're like, I don't want to spend $50, $60 on this VR game if it's like not going to, if it's like it's got like a feature and a half. So it's like I think there's like we've touched on it in various places throughout the conversation, but I think there's a bunch of things that kind of need to Tetris themselves into position before I think VR games are really going to pop off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I believe that like it's unless everybody everywhere decides, hold up, y'all, we were wrong, VR sucks. Like I think it's going to happen because so many different people are working on VR that it's clear that like it's not going to just go away. Everybody's investing in the technology. It's going to come together, and when it does, there's a couple little nudges that I think are going to come together, and I'm like, and then we're going to be good.
Yeah. Doug says ports are not going to move VR. No, I agree.
Oh yeah,
I think it's
not soon.
Yeah, it does help flesh out the library, but that's what I'm saying. You still need like, I mean, I struggle to say like, and I forgot about like Robo Recall, which I've loved quite a bit. Arizona Sunshine's okay, but I still think it's clunky. I'm trying to think of some other like if we picked a console, I could be here naming off games for a while. That could be like, oh yeah, hit.
What would be interesting, which is something I didn't consider, would be a VR console where it's meant to be played primarily or entirely in VR. That would be a really big shift for the market, and I don't think we're going to see anything like that anytime soon because of just like the where VR is now. I would say like if you were to compare it to a person, I would say like VR is probably in maybe it's like early child development. It's definitely not in its infancy. I would say like toddlerhood or high toddlerhood. It can definitely like perambulate and move around and whatnot. But like, it's not you don't have to like you probably don't quite have to worry about it like sprinting out into the street if you don't hold its hand yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really a concern. Doesn't have the motor skills yet.
And I think that's where the so Doug saying Quest 2. Yeah, I know it's standalone. It's
MetaQuest 2. I haven't heard of that one. Let me peep that.
And the other thing that really proves about what we're saying about titles is the PS2. And the reason I say that, you could look at the specs for the GameCube and the Xbox, and technically, just by power or what they could generate, were technically better than the PS2. But no one's going to argue, and I'm not saying that there aren't great games there's great games on all three, but I think if anyone's going to say who's got the deeper library, is PS2 by a country mile. Like it just is. All right. And I feel like we are either in that Atari phase where we've got a bunch of crap. We can use the Wii example too, but at least the Wii had the first party solid hits. But we're either in that Atari phase where it's going to bottom out for a bit, and then finally someone will come in. Maybe it could be the PSVR 2, or like, Steve, I think your example with the prices and the tech getting easier, someone probably could put together a headset now that's like, it ain't got to be 4K, but the resolution between the two eyes is really solid. And they're like, and they call up a couple studios, and they're like, I need hits. Give me your best idea. It's like, and let's go. We're going to Pixar this shit and brain trust some games to come out that are like, we know these 10 are like coming out 2024. Here's the headset, and here's the one killer Wii Sports-esque game that's like going to give you your Rec Room feel, your Beat Saber thing. Like, well, all this.
It's like, here's how we teach you how to use this controller and get nice and comfy. And then, when Red Steel 2 comes out, or Red Steel 3 comes out, you're ready. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think like that we're at a point where that kind of thing could happen. Like because I'm not like a mover and a shaker in the VR scene. Like, I don't know like what would need to happen for us to reach that point. But I think like, we're approaching the point where I feel like some, like maybe not necessarily a new player will enter the scene, but like a big player will kind of emerge in the VR scene who will start to like bring a lot of these ideas and like kind of like prove the concept of like how we can make VR work in a competitive, a market competitive fashion. Maybe Steam will do that. They've been putting a lot of their efforts into the Steam Deck. So I think they're going to focus on that for a while. But because they have access to so many games, and they have the huge library and the access of cross-platform stuff and whatnot, they're probably currently poised to do that the best. Although like their headset isn't like, there's a lot of competitive options for headsets. So theirs isn't like the best in the market, and they're like, oh, I got this hot new technology, blah blah blah. It's like, no, it's they're workshopping it just like everybody else is. But I think
I think that until the PSVR 2, I was going to say the Valve Index was like the headset. It's just
but isn't it on the more expensive side? Yeah. It's like $1,200 or something like that.
That's why you bought it.
yeah. And it, that's that's one of the things the reasons I didn't buy it. But yeah. But I think it's definitely probably feasible right now. But I think like maybe within the next like maybe 2 years, we'll probably start to see more of those pieces like start to fall into place, and like we'll start to have a more clear view of like who's gonna be the person who's gonna wrangle this all together and give us like a more cohesive VR experience for less of like the folks like you or me who are like more, I don't want to say like VR fanatics, but like at least willing to drop the coin on an auxiliary gaming device that costs a lot of money, but is cool, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Could be
your
at
other point of
the.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, or you could spend $300 on Logitech G Cloud.
There you go. If you don't care.
Oh my gosh! Like just save your money and buy a Steam Deck, or save some money and wait and put a little more money to that and get a Steam Deck, or save some money and get a Switch. But don't.
Yeah. Or if so, apparently, the cost of Girl Scout cookies has like currently inflated because of like basically, to put it shortly, supply issues. So folks on eBay are like, selling like Girl Scout cookie snickerdoodles for like $70 a pop. So if you can get your hands on like 4 boxes of snickerdoodles, somebody is apparently paying $70 for them. So there you go.
I got some Thin Mints I could probably auction off.
One of my friends was telling me about it the other day, and he was like, "Yo, I got like half a Switch worth of Girl Scout cookies downstairs. It's like $120 or whatever, $130."
Oh my gosh. Let's see. One last question or statement. Doug says PSVR 2 is available online through Sony's website only. Yeah, I think eventually they'll probably send out to retailers. I know part of that move was to try to combat the scalping that happened with the PS5. So I'm glad they did that.
One per address, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like best you could do is you might have a PO box and you could get 2, but that's it.
That's it. We don't have a nerd moment of the week, so we'll get that started back up next week. Something you can look forward to. Today's Friday. I was about to say tomorrow. Sunday, it's Oscars. I don't normally watch the Oscars, so what we're doing a little live stream. If you're on our Patreon, we're gonna talk before the Oscars officially start. Just have like a little hour Patreon only chat over on the website Patreon. So you actually just log in your Patreon. It'll be a live stream there. We'll chat for a bit there. And then if everyone else is not on Patreon, you can join us on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. I'll just be hanging out, probably doing stuff around the house. And then every time a new announcement happens, pop back and be like, hey, here's my thoughts on why that person might have won, or so on and so forth. So, because I mean, it's the Oscars. I have feelings. I won't dive into them all here, but usually the shows are just meh. So, yeah, you could fold laundry. You could fold laundry, do some cook dinner, stuff like that. Hang out with me. I'll make some drinks. Doug likes the new setup. I actually will probably be downstairs in the basement if I have it ready in time. We'll see. If not, I'll be up here just eating food and hanging out, doing stuff. But yeah, the basement's finally in it's still going to need some work. It's still not quite ready. Yeah, but it's been a year. It's like we gotta get back to going on stuff.
Back to work.
Yeah, back to work. I've had enough of a break. Doug was saying, like, you better get back on.
I need my nerd news, yo. The people need to know. Extra, read all about it. Loot boxes are bad.
You heard it here first, folks. or at least the most repeatedly. We've been trying to tell you.
Extra, loot boxes bad. Jack and Daxter good.
That is going to be the outro to the show. So even on Mario Day, you better play some Jack and Daxter.
How are you celebrating Mario Day? I'm playing Jack and Daxter 2 and 3. Oh, man.
All right. I've been Commander Ship.
Hey, I'm Imminent Doom X.
All right. And this has been State of Nerd Union. We will see you all next time. Hit that subscribe button. Do it. Hit it. Hit it.
Beep.
It's right there. It's somewhere in the box. Hit it.
I have to wait for the stream to catch up to see if I'm pointing at the right place. Yeah, there we go. I got it.